Welcome to The World Awaits.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
I'm Kirsty Bedford, journalist, editor and travel writer.
And I'm Belinda Jackson, author, travel journalist and columnist, and we're your weekly co-hosts. Welcome back to The World Awaits. How are you all?
Hey everyone, what have you been up to this week, Belle?
I am stressing and packing and because I'm about to head to Oman, which is a little corner of the Middle East, a quiet little corner. I'm so excited to return to the empty quarter, which is the desert that crosses the Arabian Peninsula, which is shared mostly between Oman and Saudi Arabia. So I'm looking forward to telling you all about it when I get back. And you have some news too, don't you, Kirsty?
I do. That sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear about that because I know very little about Oman. Yes, I've taken on a new role as senior writer for Carry On Luxury. So Carry On is Australia's leading travel trade brand, and it's launching a new dedicated luxury travel vertical, which is helmed by Katrina Holden. So Matt Leadham, who founded Carry On, said that lots of its readers were asking for a more dedicated focus on the luxury sector, and so they decided to launch this new vertical to meet that need and the increasingly growing demand for luxury travel. So I'm moving back into the luxury travel space, which is an area I just absolutely adore writing about, and started working in that area back in my days at Tourism New Zealand in my 20s. So it's really nice to be able to continue doing what I love most.
Well, huge congratulations. But what will you be doing on a day-to-day basis?
So I'll be writing about all the latest luxury travel news. So make sure that you sign up for the newsletter and you can read what I'm writing about, and we will put a link in the show notes.
I'm so happy for you. It's going to be fantastic. But it doesn't mean that you're leaving your co-hosting role here either.
No.
Listeners, stand down. Kirsty will still be here as well as doing freelancing too. So busy year for you, right?
Yes, what do they say? Always give the work to a busy person. No, I'm very excited about all the different creative pursuits this year. So really, really excited about just getting stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this week we have some interesting news for you. The airlineratings.com's 2024 Airline Excellence Awards are out, and they reveal the airlines with the best of everything. Best first class, best economy, best catering.
So are you going to give them away, Val?
Well, no, I wasn't going to. I'm leaving that to you. Go on.
Let's start by turning left. And have you done that before, Val?
Well, it depends on how far left you're talking, and we're not talking about my politics here, Kirsty. Yes to business class, but first class has sadly eluded me throughout my travel career, but I still hold hope. What I can tell you is there is business class and then there is business class. And for some, it's a warm fake champagne on departure. For others, it's the whole shebang from cozy pajamas to facials. I even had a manicure on a flight once on a Virgin Atlantic flight. I don't think they do them anymore, but it was amazing.
Oh, that is amazing. That is amazing. And it would depend how far you were flying, right? Like, because the manicures take a while. Like, it can take an hour.
I was going to London.
Oh, there you go.
I was going to London. I had time.
I had a pedicure at the same time. Right, well, these awards hunt down the best of the best. So the airline with the best first class goes to Singapore Airlines, for what Airline Ratings says is a long-standing reputation for pushing the boundaries of cabin innovation.
So at the opposite end of the seating scale, the best economy seat went to Air New Zealand for its innovation of the Sky Couch and the Skynest beds, which will be rolled out in mid-2025.
I've seen photos.
Think about that, Kirsty.
Yeah, I've seen some photos, and I think it's a great idea for family, but I'm not sure about clambering over sort of strangers to get into the top bunk. Like, they're quite nice, small space, and you
meet a new friend,
But I have to say, Air New Zealand has the best premium economy, and I mean, maybe not on all categories of its planes, but when we flew the family back to New Zealand about a year ago, and sorry for those who heard the story on Belle's interview last week, but we bid for an upgrade. It was only like about $100 each. And we won, and we're bumped up to premium economy. And I have to say, it was much nicer than most business class seats that I've ever had. So I don't know if I'm just missing out somewhere. But in New Zealand, depending on the plane, like I say, the premium economy can be pretty special.
Well, Virgin took out Best Cabin Crew for the 6th time in a row, while the Best In-Flight Entertainment went to Emirates, who I'm flying with to Oman. So Emirates was one of the first airlines to introduce seat back videos for economy, and get this, that was 30 years ago, and it's led the field ever since then, and today has 6,500 channels, which means I should be able to find a movie.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that because we're flying Emirates to Europe in June with the teen boys. So not that they'll probably watch any of those channels, but, they've always seem to have their own entertainment on, don't they? Maybe we won't go there with talking about teen boys. what entertainment might be.
I'd do it.
Anyway, best catering went to Qatar. Airline Rating says the presentation and delivery of meals is outstanding, and the airline has 18 special meal options. 18! And for first and business class, you can pre-select your meal and have it whenever you want. Airline food does get such a bad rap, and for a reason, I reckon. So anyway, that's enough reason to choose an airline, don't you reckon, Val?
Oh, see, I confess I do love airline food. I love unwrapping it and discovering what they're going to serve you. Sometimes it's not great, when you get that stale muffin that passes as a breakfast on some of the domestic trips. But I've got to say, one of the most spectacular dining experiences I've had in the air was on Cathay Pacific in its business class, flying from Melbourne to Milan via Hong Kong. It had an incredible wine list. It was just astonishing. It was absolutely divine.
Well, who needs airline food when you've got a good wine list? We'll put a link in the show notes so you can review all the winners. Otherwise, just go to airlineratings.com.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform.
This week, I chat to one of the most influential women in travel, Tourism Tasmania's CEO, Sarah Clark, about how travellers can make sure they continue to protect Tassie's pristine environment and some secret spots you may have never heard of. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Great to be here, Kirsty.
Thanks so much for joining us on The World Awaits. Let's start by tell us a bit about your background and how you got into the travel industry.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm originally from Tassie, and I've been in the travel industry, all my life, really. And my parents were always in tourism and hospitality. And I started my career out as a tour guide. So working up my way up and down the east coast of Australia, and also in your world in New Zealand as a guide. And I was working for Top Deck and worked my way up through the company over the years to be global general manager there. And that was at the time when it was also acquired by Flight Centre. So I had a great bit of exposure to the global beast that is Flight Centre, and also had quite a bit of time across in North America. So I was based in Canada with Top Deck, but also had a stint at STA Travel as Vice President for Product Marketing and Online. And then before I joined Tourism Tasmania, I had 5 years at Intrepid Travel, where I was Managing Director for Australia and New Zealand, which was an amazing experience and a great way to learn more about how you can travel sustainably around the world. So, yeah, that's my background, and I've really been a travel industry veteran, I guess I have to say now. I'm getting older.
Well, so great to come back full circle to Tassie. So what sort of surprised you the most about Tassie from being away?
Oh, that's a tough one. I always wanted to come back to Tassie, and I guess that COVID definitely gave me that extra push because I was able to work still for Intrepid but be based here in Hobart. And I think really it's probably surprised me how much I love being back here. And I've lived in so many great cities around the world, London, Toronto, Melbourne, and I think Hobart is just so different to that experience, and I love the calmness of it, while still working in the industry and having an intense role. But I also love the fact that Tassie's progressed so much in that time that I've been away. So since I left school almost 20 years ago or so now, it's definitely, there's Mona now, and that's definitely progressed some of the cultural elements of Tassie, but there's some incredible restaurants here that would match, those in the big cities that I've lived in, but you're still then surrounded by this beautiful natural environment as well. So I think what surprised me most is that I love it so much being home.
And Tassie really sort of has set some huge goals around sustainability, and it seems like obviously that's going to have and has a big impact on the tourism experience. So what
it's such a big word, sustainability. It covers such a broad area, and people sort of throw the word around a lot. But what do you think Tassie sort of actually does to really genuinely practice sustainability?
Yeah, you're right. It's absolutely a buzzword that's stuck around for a long time, but it can mean so many different things, and people do think environment immediately, but it also goes across that social, economic aspect as well. And we're really lucky in the environment that we work in. We work really closely with industry, and we've launched a new 2030 strategy, which is around positive impact. And so there's some pretty bold and ambitious targets within that strategy. And it's really about, looking at how we can be a leading climate conscious travel destination and really look at how we reduce our emissions. We're already in this incredible environment where we are net zero. We have 100% renewable electricity here. And so it's looking at those ways that we can continue to help the tourism and hospitality industry actually reduce their emissions through their businesses. So great macro environment. We just need to focus on the micro so that we can continue to be better. And so, along with that goal, we want to also look at things like growing our contribution that visitors make to our natural environment. So over 50% of Tasmania is protected areas and national parks, and we need to make sure we're protecting those. And a lot of what the plan is about is really protecting and preserving what makes Tassie so special, and that as a local I love, but that's what visitors love as well. So I know visitors want to engage more and more and understand what's happening from a sustainability perspective and incorporate that in their experience as well.
Do you think, it's interesting you say that, because I often wonder, do people say they want to do it, or do they actually genuinely do it? Because a lot of travellers, I think we all genuinely care, but do we then take that to the next step of actually, when we're booking a holiday, thinking, hang on a second here, what can I do to ensure that I'm actually looking at using people who do have genuinely sustainable practices?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the intention is there for a lot of people, a majority of people. It's just when it comes to the crunch of deciding on that holiday destination, is it really in the consideration set? But research shows more and more that it definitely is. And the type of travellers that engage with Tasmania as a destination, they're engaging with us because we align really nicely with their values, and that is very much about the natural environment and way of life. So I think more and more it's changing the way people make decisions about where they travel.
Are you finding, have you got tourist operators, and what are some maybe sort of specific, any examples of people that are actually, genuinely doing this, like people that travellers can jump on and have that sustainable experience?
Yeah, it's a really hard thing for travellers to navigate through, to actually find the right information to see if a business is being sustainable or, at least has a plan to do so. So I know that a lot of the big distribution channels, online travel agents, and some of the traditional travel agents are trying to surface that information as best as possible, but it is quite a hard thing to do. But there's a lot of operators here in Tassie that are really focused on ensuring that they're reducing their emissions and they're doing the right thing from a community perspective. I know the likes of Pennicott Wilderness Journeys here in Tassie are doing some really great things and putting money back into support communities. There's also a great experience on Dove Lake, which is canoeing, and the operators there have actually, or I should say kayaking, the operators there have actually created a new, instead of putting plastic kayaks on Dove Lake, they've actually built their own kayaks out of King Billy pine. And so it's this, full circle eco experience where it doesn't ruin the visual aspect of it, of people just walking around the lake. You know, they're not seeing all this plastic on the lake, but it just enhances the experience itself because you're in this amazing old King Billy Pine kayak, which is pretty cool. So I think Tassie is full of small operators. 97% of our businesses are small businesses. And there's so many great innovative things that people are doing that really enhance the experience and also tell the story of the area too.
Yeah, and that's equally important, isn't it? Are you finding that travellers are sort of increasingly also wanting to know a lot about the history, both good and bad?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that feeds into our Indigenous history as well. And Tasmania has a really deep and complex history. And our Tasmanian Aboriginal experiences, we have a few across Tasmania, and there's some incredible, especially Tasmanian Aboriginal women launching tourism experiences, like a great walk that you can do around Hobart and learn some of the history and culture with a lady called Nanami. So they're seeing more and more of that come out, and people love stories and they love hearing, you know, whether it's been a negative past or not, just hearing what is all the place is all about and how it's come to be what it is now.
How do we navigate the issue of that with cruise ships? Because there's lots of cruise ships coming in to Tassie too, you know, to various ports around the issue of sustainability.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think if you put the lens of cruise ships and airplanes coming in, it would be in a similar vein. It's just that you see cruise ships coming because they come straight into the city versus into the airport. And I think when we're looking at transportation as a whole, you know, there's a big responsibility for tourism as a sector to look at how we can move forward in the likes of sustainable aviation fuel or fuel that's used by cruise ships, and also things, especially in Tassie, and I know this is in the pipeline, but how cruise ships can plug into our renewable electricity while they're here, as opposed to obviously burning diesel, etc. So there's definitely steps that can be taken. It's and I know some of the cruise lines are moving in that direction for sure. But yeah, I think it's talked about more because it's more visible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things that it's hard to avoid. I mean, you know, people coming into Tassie, particularly like being in obviously in island state, their only way of getting there is by plane or boat. So it's a bit of a challenge, isn't it, for you know, both Tassie itself and travellers who want to do the right thing, really, because you're not exactly going to just jump on a kayak and get there from Melbourne.
Well, you could sail down in the Sydney to Hobart. A great experience, apparently.
What are some of the experiences at Tassie at the moment that might sort of surprise travellers, some of the things that they might not have previously thought of that are available now?
Yeah, I think there's been quite a big interest in agritourism, and so the fact that you can actually go to a farm gate and talk to the person that's made your cheese or you know, made whatever produce that is there, and have that real experience is becoming more and more sought after. And there's so many small farms across Tassie. And I think the surprise is that it is so accessible as you're driving around. And you can sort of drive past and see the little sign on the gate and pop in and have a chat with the local owner there. So that in itself has been something that people have really loved, that experience. The other thing as well is I think people don't realise that there's a whole quarter of Tasmania that's actually not accessible by road, which is our southwest area. And there's a hike that you can do there, which takes sort of 6 to 8 days, but you are in the most remote wilderness area, you know, probably in Australia, and, you know, one of in the world, where you just have this incredible beauty and biodiversity around you. and sort of no roads or access to run into anyone else apart from another hiker. And so we've got that real diversity of natural experience where you can be in the middle of nowhere, but then also if you're staying in Hobart, you can drive for 10 minutes and be on Kunyani, Mount Wellington, and do an amazing hike there as well. And so I think that accessible natural playground that Tassie has really surprises people, especially when you can access it so quickly from being in Hobart and having a great restaurant and culinary experience, and then literally go down the road and do an incredible hike.
And do you think that's something increasingly people are wanting, like particularly post-pandemic, to have sort of more off-grid sort of remote travel experiences? Is that something that's really growing in Tassie?
Yeah, there's definitely been an increase in people wanting to get out and be active and experience the wilderness. There's definitely a mix between people who want to be as far away as possible and off-grid, but then there's also a big amount of people who still need Wi-Fi. They want to be connected. They're probably working from home at the moment and traveling, so need to be on some emails. And so I think that probably call it like a 5G wilderness luxury experience. We're still connected, but in a beautiful environment. So you can kind of get a bit of both of that in Tassie.
Yeah. And what are some of your favourite things to do when you're on your weekends?
Well, if I'm around Hobart, which is where I live, then I love going to the farmers markets and getting that fresh produce and going out to some of our awesome restaurants. But if I've got a weekend away, just being on the water for me is amazing. And I'm lucky enough to have a shack up the east coast of Tassie, just opposite Maria Island. And so getting away, it's only an hour drive from Hobart, and getting away and just being in that environment, looking across to Maria Island or going across there and going for a fish is one of my highlights for sure. And it definitely, I feel very lucky that I'm able to do that on the weekend.
What do you think the future of tourism in Tassie is? What does the future look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I wish I had a crystal ball. And it's been such a roller coaster the last couple of years. We've had an amazing recovery when it comes to COVID because of the domestic market, who we had a big resurgence of travel straight after those borders were open, and have done very well. And we're seeing those international travellers come back in at the moment as well. But for Tassie, one of the most important things is around sustainable growth. So it's not just growth for growth's sake. We need to make sure we've got plans that protect our natural environment. We've got the right infrastructure in place, and we've got a really good customer experience. And we really want to ensure that we're continuing to build visitation year round. So in our winter and our shoulder months, so that there's consistency of business for our operators as well. So I think the future in Tassie is really bright. It's about promoting and protecting Tasmania in the right way and making sure we're keeping our special place really special.
Who do you look to sort of as the benchmark for doing that?
I think there's a lot of destinations around the world that do elements of things really well. And so the likes of, I guess, Iceland, I think Sweden do some great stuff, New Zealand, but Tasmania is really quite unique. And so we make sure we do our desktop research, but we want to create models that are really unique to us in Tassie. And we are a little bit different because we're a state, not a country, when we're, comparing that. And so we do, of course, lean on the rest of Australia in that strategic view. But we are very different to a lot of the other states too, in our approach, especially around sustainable growth. So I think it's important to always look at what the competition are doing in different destinations and how we can be better. But yeah, I think some of the European countries are doing some really great things.
And which market is sort of your target sort of market at the moment?
Yeah, around 85% of our travellers come from domestic Australia, and then the other 15% are international. And we've got increasingly getting more US travellers, but also from those Asian markets are important to us. But domestic is definitely the heart of it, and we've recently done a new segmentation around the domestic market, and we're appealing to those positive impact travellers, which really align with those Tasmanian values, who are more likely to want to come and experience Tassie.
And I guess that gets back to ensuring the sort of sustainability of places that are sort of quite populated, if you can call them populated, like Cradle Mountain.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a big infrastructure plan happening at the moment. We've opened a beautiful new area around Dove Lake and a viewing platform that makes it a lot easier to access once you're there and enhance that experience. And there's a continued plan over the next couple of years there as well. But it's about making sure that people understand that Cradle is a beautiful place to visit, but there's also some really gorgeous places around there that there's not going to be as many people visiting. And so it's appealing to that market and making sure that we're serving up information to show where people can go across the state.
What are some of those places that are sort of, just as beautiful but not as populated as Cradle Mountain that people can go?
Yeah, well, I love the Tarkine region in the northwest is absolutely stunning. And there's a little place called Corinna, which is right on the Pieman River. And you can do this beautiful cruise up the Pieman River. And it's absolutely magic. You're kind of in the middle of nowhere in this mirrored water with amazing wilderness right beside you. So there's places like that, but definitely are lesser known than Cradle Mountain when it comes to visiting, and they're scattered right across the state. And if you think about somewhere like Coles Bay, which is a beautiful area, and you walk across to Wineglass Bay, Freycinet National Park, but actually just 5 minutes or 10 minutes before you get into Coles Bay, there's a place called Friendly Beaches, which is absolutely stunning. It's actually where I got engaged. But beautiful white sandy beaches and no one for days. And so I'd highly recommend to stop in there. Do Freycinet as well. But there's so many of those places just to the side that are just as gorgeous.
Which is why Tassie lends itself so well to road tripping, doesn't it? Because of these little places that you can discover, and the roads are really good, and it's safe and easy. And then also you can pull into those producers and grab your cheese and chat to the farmer whose milk's used.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people think that Tassie is so small you can get around in a couple of days. But because there's so much to see and do, people tend to come for a week and then realise that they need to come back for another couple of weeks. And actually I was on a flight across to Auckland, our direct flight from Hobart, and the other day, and was speaking with some Kiwi peeps, and they were saying, I need to book another trip because there were so many things that we couldn't do because we didn't have the time. So I think people realise that. They go on this amazing road trip and they come across all of these, tiny little places, and they need to come back again.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, it's a little slice of paradise, isn't it? And great for you. I bet it must be really nice just to be back at home and and being able to do what you love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel very grateful that I can combine my two passions, which is tourism and Tasmania in one, and the perfect role.
All right. Well, look, we're running out of time, but I'll ask you the question we ask all of our guests, which is, what's the most bizarre thing that's happened to you during your travels?
It's a tough one. If I wasn't in a government role, I feel like I'd have so many stories to tell you. They're just not that big. I travelled around South America when it was in 2006. So I just finished uni and definitely got into some pretty bizarre situations. But maybe I'll just switch it a bit and say the most memorable. And it was on this trip, and I went to a place called the Corn Islands, or Island de Mays in Nicaragua. And to get there, it was on the east coast of Nicaragua. And you had to get to a place called Bluefields and fly from Bluefields across to Little Corn Island. And to get on the plane, we were given a wooden boarding pass with a number on it. So that was our boarding pass. I'm not sure of the safety and security of that flight, but we got there. And we checked into our $3 a night little hut on the most incredible Caribbean beach, where the lady who owned the hut didn't speak English but cooked us rice and beans every night. And we became friends with the military guy who circled the island, who I think also worked for the drug lords too. So got to know a little bit of Nicaraguan culture there. It was a pretty amazing experience.
It is. It sounds incredible. And sometimes the best experiences are the ones that cost the least.
Exactly.
Oh, look, thank you. It's been fantastic talking about Tassie, and thanks for your time today.
Oh, I loved hearing all about those small operators who are doing such innovative things to ensure the area remains sustainable, especially those kayaks built out of King Billy pine, which is a great initiative. Our tip this week is one close to our hearts as keen readers, and the best thing about it is you don't have to be travelling to enjoy this one. The tip is how to immerse yourself in a destination via books before you travel, or even afterwards, to relive your memories or deepen your understanding of the destination you've just been to.
Tripfiction.com is a UK-based website that lets you search a destination and then it shows you the books that have been located there.
So you can search by location or by author or genre, so if you're after a crime novel or even a graphic novel, and then you can also buy the book from that website as well.
So they have a map function, so you can zoom into a map to see what books are located in that destination, so that you can choose books about a destination you're going to before you leave, and there are thousands of them in that database. So each book has a synopsis, and it's been reviewed by the Trip Fiction team.
I've used it quite a few times. So, for example, I'll search Delhi and it will come up with a list of books set in that city, such as the fabulous William Dalrymple's City of Jinns, which is a brilliant introduction to the Indian city. And what I also love about Trip Fiction is its sense of community. So you register on the site, it's free, and you can even add a suggested book in a location or review one that's already on the website.
Adds a whole new dimension to a destination you go to. So to find them, visit tripfiction.com, and they're also all on the main social media channels. Happy reading, everyone.
You're listening to The World Awaits. We'd love it if you could leave us a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform.
Next week, my guest is Jenny Gray from Intrepid Travel. Jenny and I travelled in Saudi Arabia together recently, and the tour company has just launched its new women-only expedition in this Middle Eastern powerhouse. So we're going to talk all about Saudi. We're going to talk about why women-only tours exist and why they are such an enormous trend in travel at the moment.
Cannot wait for that one, not only because of the women-only tours, but the fact that they're in Saudi. Fantastic. And if you'd like to help support our production costs, you can buy us a coffee at coffee.com/theworldawaits. That's ko-fi.com/theworldawaits, so we can continue to bring you inspirational travel interviews with the world's best.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods. And where can people find you, Kirsty?
I'm at Kirsty Writes on Instagram. That's KIRSTIE Writes, WRITES. And where can people find you, Belle?
You can find me at globalsalsa.com or on Insta at global_salsa.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.